Hello and welcome to this ICAEW webinar in association with 123 Sheets, where we'll explore how to use spreadsheets for MTD ITSA. My name is Roz Harrington and I'm the Senior Practice Manager here at ICAEW, and I'll be your facilitator for this session. I'd like to now introduce to you our speaker today, Chartered Accountant and Tax Advisor, as well as Managing Director of 123 Sheets, Peter Hamilton. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Roz. I hope you're well today and everybody else as well.
Perfect. Off you go.
Thanks, Roz. So, yeah, my name is Peter. I'm the Managing Director of 123 Sheets. 123 Sheets is HMRC recognized MTD spreadsheet specialists. If you were to look on the HMRC supplier list of available now, you'd find our software listed there for ITSA MTD. So this session today is about making the most out of spreadsheets and getting that to work with ITSA MTD for when that comes on board in April 2024. But I can imagine quite a lot of accountants will want to be testing that and making sure that that's working for them and their client base before the April kickoff in 2024. Okay, so we undertook a bookkeeping survey in December 2021 via Accounting Web. It was an anonymous survey in the sense that people didn't even know who it was who was asking. We didn't want people to come onto the survey if they already knew it was about spreadsheets. So anyway, it was a representative survey of small, medium and large accountancy firms. Over 100 accountancy firms took part, and they represented over 17,000 sole traders. And we discovered that 48% of those 17,000 sole traders, either they themselves or their accountant on their behalf, was completing the bookkeeping on a spreadsheet. The over 100 accountancy firms taking part represented 7,000 landlord clients, and of those, 49% completed their bookkeeping on a spreadsheet, or the accountant completed it on a spreadsheet on their behalf. So that tells us that that spreadsheets is by far and away the largest piece of software that people are currently using if they're a sole trader or a landlord. It also tells us that not only is it the largest piece of software that's being used, it represents almost half. And most accountancy firms tend to be using Microsoft Office on their computers. There are not many accountants that tend to use an Apple Mac for their practice. So of course, naturally, you would find 95% of those are wanting spreadsheets to be completed on Microsoft Excel. So what is Excel? It is a programming platform with pre-built-in spreadsheet functionality. So most accountants tend to use the pre-built-in spreadsheet functionality inside of Excel, but they don't tend to use the programming aspects of that can make life easy for accountants. If, for example, they want to develop a spreadsheet that stops clients from breaking spreadsheets or provides an audit trail, extra reporting facilities, all of that can be undertaken through Excel by using some of the programming aspects available. So just to show you some of the sort of programming that has been done on Excel, here we can see that a group of people have actually produced a flight simulator in Excel. You can see actually that you couldn't even tell it was Excel by looking at it potentially. And this was developed by some people who are involved in developing Microsoft Excel. Here's another one of a little car game that's been included in Excel. Where, yeah, people just go around and shoot people's cars. And here's somebody who's designed a spreadsheet whereby it has a nice sort of beautiful looking dashboard. Some people like to have dashboard of beautiful looking things. You can see someone's clicking on a cogwheel there to change some settings. You can actually make the Excel sort of top bar and the worksheets down the bottom completely disappear, but they're there to show you that you can clearly see that it is actually a spreadsheet. So Microsoft Excel has programming ability that most accountants aren't currently using, but they might want to start to dabble in that, particularly maybe if they're a larger firm and might have access to using IT people to do that for them. Smaller firms that might not have the capacity or space to do that, they might just be able to use a spreadsheet that we've designed that has some programming platform features put in there. And I'll show you one of those spreadsheets later. Okay, so let's just have a look now about why accountants and their clients might be wanting to use Excel for MTD ITSA instead of some desktop or online bookkeeping software. So Excel tends to be a sort of a Marmite topic. Either it's a hate it or love it thing for many different people. So although for many accountants, they do find it faster at data entry, where they have a well-designed spreadsheet and trained staff. There are others who complain and say it's too slow and I'd need to use something else because it's so slow. But for those who do find it quicker, they're able to find it quicker because they have staff well trained and versed in using Excel, and it's many good features, but also people who can touch type. So for example, they can look at an invoice and just type away without having to then look at the keyboard, without having to look at screen, and then they've lost their place in the purchase invoice. They can quickly type in purchase invoices into a spreadsheet. So we used to do that, for example, and we tested it against some cloud facilities whereby people can scan receipts and so on. And we found that by the time it had been scanned, uploaded and reviewed, it was quicker if we just entered it directly straight into a spreadsheet. So we found that a lot quicker. Just a very quick example on fast data entry. So I used to have an accountancy practice, and I'd say probably about 8 years ago, we took on a pub client who, as like a lot of landlords, administration wasn't one of their greatest skills. So we took over all of their bookkeeping, and we took it over, in fact, from another accountancy firm. And because we had designed a spreadsheet that had a trial balance, aged debtor reporting, general ledger report, and we could enter the data in very quickly, that meant that we were able to charge £60 an hour for the bookkeeping, although the client didn't know that. We weren't charging per hour, but that's the hourly rate that our staff were assigned to do the bookkeeping. And even though they were completing the bookkeeping at £60 an hour, we had actually halved their accountancy fee from what they were paying another accountant who was using some desktop proprietary software of a well-known software vendor. So for the right accountant, accountants may want to use Excel because they simply find it a lot quicker. There's a lot of flexibility with a spreadsheet compared to off-the-shelf products. So for example, we already provide bridging software for accountants for VAT. We have a lot of accountants who use a lot of the main products out there that are off the shelf. And the reason why they sometimes end up using our software is because there's some sort of feature that doesn't work or is a bit slow, or it doesn't exist in the bookkeeping proprietary software. So for example, one accountant I met just recently told me why he was using a particular cloud bookkeeping software that most accountants use, but he found that he was having to, he was doing all the bookkeeping in this software, but then he had to download the VAT return and the data, the detailed data that went with that return in order to calculate the partial exemption amounts for the VAT return, for example. And he found it a lot quicker to do that in a spreadsheet. So that's just one example. And that's going to happen with MTD ITSA as well. There's going to be situations where maybe there's some private use, for example, where the client may have entered in a lot of transactions, and you need to very quickly to be able to change a number of those transactions very quickly without having to go in and change each one. You want to be able to sort of, if you download it into Excel, you can quickly run a formula down and complete that a lot more quickly. So there's a lot more flexibility in a spreadsheet compared to off-the-shelf products. And that can also happen not only with a sole trader, but also potentially with a landlord, whereby you might want to have to do calculations on certain percentages of a portfolio of properties, where you might have different beneficial owners that have differing percentage ownership of different properties. And it might be quicker to run some formulas down to calculate things a lot quicker than to necessarily have done that in some desktop or cloud-based software, where it might be a bit slower to make adjustments. And particularly where the client is doing the bookkeeping themselves, it is generally speaking a lot quicker to make adjustments in Excel than it is via most other software products. Okay, there are clients and there are accountants who already have bookkeeping records on spreadsheets, and they are often very happy with what they've already got and don't feel the need for a change. And when I did run my practice previously, we did find that we took over some clients who were being forced by some clients to come off spreadsheets. So we took on more clients. So there are people who they love spreadsheets, maybe particularly like IT contractors, for example, many of those around. They like their spreadsheets. They don't want to be told to come off it and forced to do so when they feel there isn't a need to do so. So you can keep clients happy by letting them stay on spreadsheets if that's what they're happy with. As I mentioned before, actually, to be able to review and amend client data, it's a lot quicker typically in Excel than other packages, because you can see quite a large amount of data on the screen, a whole load of transactions, and you can edit a number of transactions all on one single screen without having to go into each particular transaction. You can quickly run a formula down to change a number of them if necessary once they've been ordered and moved about in the spreadsheet. Another advantage of spreadsheets is typically if you've got a good template already, there is no chart of accounts to prepare. So that's very good for sole traders and small landlords who, for example, you may be able to sort out and prepare and file their first quarterly submission faster than you could even have set up a chart of accounts for a client without even entering any data if that was on a cloud or a desktop proprietary software. So those are some of the reasons why accountants might want to be using Excel for MTD ITSA. Okay, let's have a brief look at the ITSA MTD cycle for how the cycle will work from data entry all the way through to the year-end process. So on our software, we allow people, either the agent or the client, to be using their own spreadsheet. Or alternatively, if they're happy to do so, we provide a bookkeeping spreadsheet that has some of the features that I mentioned earlier, some programming features that make certain aspects of Excel work well, such as having an audit trail, and making changes to Excel so the client can't break it, and some programming to enable and ensure that the formatting of the spreadsheet cannot be changed by the user. So yeah, those are the two ways that we typically accept people's data from a spreadsheet. And people also like their own spreadsheet and might not want to use ours because of the flexibility of Excel. You can do whatever it is that you need to do. And our spreadsheet is quite fixed. It's almost like a sort of a proprietary bookkeeping piece of software. So if you did want to have a lot of facility to run formulas down and so on, then you wouldn't be able to use our bookkeeping spreadsheet for that. You'd have to use your own spreadsheet in that scenario. So we want sort of to take the best of Excel and make that available to users. So therefore they can either use their own spreadsheet or they can use a spreadsheet that we've provided. And typically what will then happen is that spreadsheet, whether it's yours or ours, will generate a report. In your case, it's probably just likely to be just the report just is the spreadsheet itself. And so there'll be an upload of summary data for a quarterly filing to our website. So in terms of the bookkeeping, you're doing that on a spreadsheet, but in terms of filing data to HMRC, you're then going to an online cloud platform that has a variety of features, including being able to view and submit quarterly data to HMRC. So yeah, once that file of data from the spreadsheet has been sent to our website, uploaded to our website, we will then submit that data to HMRC. And because HMRC then has that quarterly data, once all 4 quarters have been filed and the end of period statement has been filed, that sort of draws a line in the sand and tells HMRC that year worth of landlord data or sole tradership data has now been completed. And therefore, after the tax year is closed, the accountant has then got best part of 9 months all the way around to the 31st of January in their tax return software, or once the tax return has been phased out. I guess it would just be called, who knows what it might be called. Yeah, crystallization, I think, tends to be the word at the moment, but that might potentially be changed. So there's sort of a crystallization point where you finalize all of the affairs of your client. So yes, they might be a sole trader or a landlord, but maybe they've got a company as well. Maybe they've got some bank interest, employment, dividends, and so on. So there's a lot of other information that needs to be sent to HMRC. At this stage, potentially, yeah, particularly dividends, but also, yeah, to review data that you can draw down from HMRC, which in the future, will be bank interest and employment data that can already be drawn down from HMRC. And in a likewise manner, in your year-end tax software, whatever that might happen to be, you'll be able to draw down, there'll be a button in that software to draw down data from HMRC that we had sent HMRC. And so in the year-end software, you press a button that draws down the summary data into the tax return software for the landlord and the sole trader aspects of their tax affairs to be finalized at the end of the year. And that means that our software doesn't need to talk to other pieces of software, because what we're doing is we're sending it to HMRC, and all the other software vendors are able to communicate with HMRC via the HMRC API to draw down that data into their software. Now, you don't even need, it's not even a year end where that data can be drawn down, because each individual quarter is sent to HMRC. Any other piece of software that's HMRC recognized and can use the API can also draw down individual quarters. So, for example, on our software, you would be able to see all quarters that have been sent to HMRC, whatever piece of software had actually originally filed that software, because we tend to store as little data as possible in our database. We draw down everything from HMRC. So when someone's looking at their history, they're actually looking at live data that's just literally come from HMRC in that last second or so to show them their prior history and previous quarters, whether that was from our software or anybody else's. Okay, so yeah, so there isn't a need to worry about our software needing to synchronize with anybody else's. There is a question potentially about, should clients be doing their own bookkeeping for quarterly data, or should the accountant be doing that? I would imagine that most firms will have a hybrid of both of those two. Where you have VAT return clients, I would imagine that the clients who are doing their own bookkeeping and VAT would potentially be doing their own quarterly filing for ITSA. The type of clients where for example, oh yeah, these people, they can't do administration. We already do all of their bookkeeping for them. Then typically the accountant's going to do it. I wouldn't expect. I know that some accountants are worried. Well, if I let my client do the quarterly data, they'll start to feel like they can do it themselves. So we have a way of trying to assist accountants so that they can feel a bit happier about letting the clients who you feel comfortable with doing the quarterly data themselves. And I'll show that to you on our system. Basically, what that includes is in the agent version of our software, you can tick a box on a client that will create a numbed down version of the software for the client to use, where all they're able to do is file a quarterly return. So they're not going to be phoning you up and asking why the HMRC estimate seems so wildly different from what they're expecting, because they won't see any HMRC estimates. Also, they won't be able to file the end of period statement. They won't be able to override and file an amended annual data. They won't have that facility on our client version of our software. And that will be priced with probably a 50% discount for accountants to effectively to sell that on to their clients. Yeah, so the accountant is benefiting from, on the one hand, that they're not having to undertake an enormous amount of administration because the clients who they feel are capable of doing their own bookkeeping can go and do their own quarterly filing, but also they're making a little bit of money, and maybe this helping them just to cover their costs of MTD by charging on to the client the client version of the software at their sort of price that we have it listed on our website for owner managers, but they'll get, but the accountant will be able to sell it on and double the price that they've had to pay. Now, so that there's still a question for some accountants in terms of, well, I'm still not necessarily sure if I want the client to do the quarterly filing. Even if they can do the quarterlies, it might make them feel like they can do it themselves. I think most accountants would agree with me that when the reason why clients get the accountant to do the tax return, and very often the client is doing their own bookkeeping and providing perhaps a spreadsheet for property rentals, for example, is because they know that the accountant is aware of the tax rules that the client isn't. Say, for example, to know when an item should be capitalized or whether it should be put through as an expense, how to deal with renewal of plant and machinery. So for example, in a letting, that might be the renewal of an oven, for example, how that might be classified. And so typically most well, I'm sure all accountants, when they get their data from clients that where the client does do their bookkeeping themselves, there are always adjustments to be made. So when the client, if they are making their own quarterly submissions, they are going, if they did want to check, they would see that their quarterly data they've submitted is not the same as the final end result that's being submitted to HMRC. They know that the accountant is undertaking the review process. They know that the accountant is making adjustments and that they are sending and correcting the data and submitting the full data for the year and closing off the year. And if I can't remember any time as an accountant where I mean, it's a handful of circumstances when their client was actually capable of producing bookkeeping and nothing needed changing. Very highly unlikely. So you know, and clients are aware of that. That's why they're happy to do bookkeeping themselves already now for many cases, but they're happy to leave to the experts the year-end adjustments. And with our software, you can assign the clients effectively only to do the quarterly filings, and you can undertake the review and year-end filings that they don't have the capability to do in our sort of numbed down client version of our software. And enabling the client to do that filing themselves or to have it in-house provides choice. I know when I was an accountant, I like to always make sure the client felt they were in control by giving them options. So if you're giving them the choice of saying, you know, would you like us to do it? Obviously, there'll be this cost, or you can do it yourself. I think a lot of people will be happy enough to do that themselves. Obviously, it's not going to work for everybody. There'll be a number of clients, as you do already for VAT, for example, where you don't even let the client even do the bookkeeping at all, or maybe they do the bookkeeping, but they don't do the quarterly VAT submission. And so you're likely to have a similar thing, I think, with the ITSA as well, that there'll be some people who you're happy enough doing the bookkeeping and the quarterly filing and leaving you to take care of the year-end process. Others, they might not feel comfortable doing the quarterly submission, but they're happy enough to do the bookkeeping. So you're just providing a quarterly review filing. And then others, where you're just doing the year-end for them, as you currently do. And of course, a lot of accountants today, even where they are taking it on board and doing it themselves, are outsourcing. You know, if you go to a lot of accountancy exhibition, Accountex and so on, that you'll find a number of different outsourcing outfits where they can probably do the outsourcing a lot cheaper than you can, and it can help to offload the burden. So I know a lot of accountants are worried about the burden of the quarterly submissions. So you've got two sort of choices to try to minimize that as much as possible. You know, one is, you know, if possible, get the client to do it themselves, or if not, you know, look towards outsourcing to try to help manage the ITSA MTD filings. Okay, so I think you've heard enough of me sort of rambling on now. So what we'll try and do now is I'll show you our software and how that works. So if I just go back for a second, just to remind you, on here on the left, you can see on the ITSA MTD cycle, there's a choice of either you use your own spreadsheet, or you could use our bookkeeping spreadsheet to upload summary data and file that to HMRC. I'm going to briefly show you both of those two scenarios. One where you've got your own spreadsheet and how that works with our software, and the other option and how that works if you decide to go with our bookkeeping spreadsheet. So let me just try to change some screens so you can see that. Just bear with me a second while I get that going. So first of all, I'm going to show you the option where the accountant is using their own spreadsheet. So this is for a landlord client. They filled in a spreadsheet for a quarter. I've just kept it basic so you can understand what's going on. There's 3 tabs down here. First of all, there's a rental income. So yeah, July, August, September. So this in fact is a second quarter that needs filing for the year. So there's 4 quarters. This is the second quarter that needs filing. They've got their rental income here with a total. And they've got expenses here. Yeah, some management charges and a gas safety certificate in that quarter. And then I've just done a little calculation of what I'm expecting the profit to be, so that when I send the data to HMRC, I can just double check that it matches my spreadsheet. So these 2 here are effectively the accountant's own spreadsheets. Now, what this accountant has done is he's then inserted our template worksheet for data that goes to HMRC. He's taken the option of just inserting it into his spreadsheet to keep it all in one. You don't have to insert it into that worksheet as an additional worksheet. You can just keep it separate. And there's a nice big sort of number here of the HMRC taxable profit for filing, so that we can easily see at a glance what's going to be sent to HMRC. So all we do is we just transpose the figures using a digital link, similar to how we would do with VAT. So rental income first, so we just put an equal sign in there, go to the rent, highlight the rent total and press enter. And because the rental income is actually quite low, just a single property, this particular person can opt for using consolidated expenses. So what that means is we can send to HMRC just effectively 2 figures, which is just the rental income and the one's consolidated number of all the expenses added together. However, we wouldn't want to put the residential finance cost lumped in with that, because obviously that has to be treated differently for tax purposes. So if you had a residential finance cost, you wouldn't include that in the consolidated expenses. So yeah, highlight the consolidated expenses, press the equals button, go to the expenses, highlight the total of that, press enter. Then I can see, oh yes, the profit that I had calculated of £3,010 is the same as what's now showing here. So typically I then save that. That's now ready to go to the 123 Sheets website for uploading. So let's do that now. Let's go to the 123 Sheets website for uploading that spreadsheet. So hopefully you should now see our website. This is a deadline schedule. I'll explain about deadline stuff a bit later. So yeah, this quarterly filing is actually a bit late, this second quarter. The first quarter has already been filed. If you remember in the bookkeeping, it was just the second quarter that needed to be filed. And yeah, the next deadline is the 5th of January, 2023. And we've got these submissions that are outstanding. They're actually late. So they're highlighted in red. And we're actually dealing with Alison filing her second quarter. So we then click on the file button. That's communicating now with HMRC and drawing down the obligations that need to be sent. And here they are here. So yeah, on the history tab, there's one that's already been filed. That's the first quarter. We can view or amend that quarter. And we've got 3 quarters left. And we've also got an end of period statement that needs to be filed for this particular taxpayer who's got a property portfolio. So this is the to-do tab, which shows what's outstanding. So as things get filed, they drop off this page. So very clearly, you can see what needs doing. So once everything's complete for the year, this will basically just be empty, and everything instead would be found in the history tab. At the moment, we've only got 1 filing in the history tab because only 1's been filed. We've got 3 outstanding returns. If somebody, for example, has a UK property and let's say they're also a sole trader, then they're going to get more obligations in here. They're going to have 8 quarterly filings and 2 end of period statements to do. So whatever things that need to be filing for an individual taxpayer, they would all be listed here. And as they get filed, they get dropped off this to-do page. So let's just go ahead and do a filing now. So for this, yeah, second quarter, it was due on the it was due on the 5th of November. So we're going to file that now. And in this situation, it's a UK non-holiday let. And we're using the spreadsheet option. This option here is to do with if you were going to use the 123 sheets bookkeeping, but we're not. We're using our own spreadsheet that's using the sort of the default template from 123 sheets inserted into the accountant's own bookkeeping file. Submit simplified expenses, annual turnover below 85,000. Yet we're going to tick that box because we're using one consolidated figure for the expenses. Then we basically we can either drag and drop the file into the space here, or we can choose the file. So let's just choose the file. I think it was on my desktop. Where was it? That one there. And then upload that data. That then populates, and I can see nice and clear in bold here. Yeah, I've got the profit here I was expecting, the £3,010. There's the consolidated expenses and the total income amounts. And in this example, there wasn't any residential finance costs or anything. And then once we're happy that is correct, we tick the box and just submit that to HMRC. So those users out there who already use our software for VAT will instantly recognize this sort of setup because it's exactly how it works with VAT. So it should be very intuitive for people who already use our software. Okay, what we'll do now is we'll now have a look at a situation where, let's say, for example, you are happy to use the 123 sheets spreadsheet instead of your own bookkeeping. So you might have a client, for example, you want to hand it out to some clients where you feel then they might potentially mess up a spreadsheet that you give them. So you might potentially want to give them ours instead. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at our spreadsheet and how that might be filed. So I need to change the screen again. Just bear with me while I do that. It's this one here. So hopefully you should see a spreadsheet that's open, and we can see that there are data entry worksheets, there's reporting worksheets, and there's some other here for sort of settings. And this is for a landlord. So we're going to do Alison again, and we're going to file her second quarter again on the deadline demonstration software that you saw earlier. So you'll notice down the bottom that at any one time, there's only one tab that's open. So the client or the accountant or the junior does not become overwhelmed by death by 1,000 tabs down the bottom of trying to work out where they're meant to be. They always end up coming back to this contents page where it's clearly listed the worksheets via some buttons. So before giving out the spreadsheet to a client, you probably want to set it up and tailor it for the client. So what you want to do is you probably want to go on the settings first to say whether, are they VAT registered? So even a property portfolio might potentially need to be VAT registered if, for example, there's a commercial let with an option, VAT option to tax on the property. And there might be some other functionality in there. So, for example, this first one, it's set to no, I've not made a calendar quarter election for the year to end on the 31st of March. You might want to opt for that. And all you do is you just click on it and change it to sort of yes or no, or leave that as no still. You want to, in this example, you might want to specify whether there are multiple beneficial owners or not. You might, want to say whether they're VAT registered, whether their taxable rental income is rent only, or whether there's other bits and pieces going on there. And these options here on the settings page enable the spreadsheet to become more complicated or more simple to make the life easier for the person who's entering it. So, for example, because we said it's not VAT registered, then all the VAT columns are hidden. There's no VAT information to enter, and clients can't get confused with accidentally entering in VAT into a VAT box, which is actually a bit problematic, I know, on some software where you set it up for the client and you say it's not VAT registered, but then when they come to enter a purchase, there's a box for VAT. And of course, many of them might even fill that in. And then you have to start the bookkeeping all over again. So this avoids that problem by asking what the settings are and then making sure the parts that they don't need to know about all get hidden. So in this example, everything's sort of turned off, except we have said that there are multiple beneficial owners and there are multiple properties. So on the properties, you just list those out here. You can it takes up to 100 properties. You'll see here password protection is set to off. All of these settings pages you can password protect so that once you've gone through all the settings, or even the settings page itself, there's an option to, do you want, here it is here, your password protection is off. You can turn that on so the client can't go in partway through the year and change the settings because it's password protected. But I'll leave that off so we can navigate quickly past the settings. So yeah, so we've said there's beneficial owners. So I've put 3 different beneficial owners. It takes up to 10 beneficial owners. And you can just fill in the percentages in here. So for example, if I wanted to add in somebody else, if I put in Derek, for example, you'll notice that creates a new column here where I can put in the different percentages for the properties that are listed here. And these properties that are listed obviously come from the properties page. And then we just put in the relevant percentages. Okay, so yeah, so we could just say, yeah, maybe Ben's got 15 of that one and 20% of that one and 18% of that one. And as I fill this in, you'll see that the Allison figures are actually locked. And that's basically a balancing figure appears in the first column to ensure the total is always 100%. I'll just put in some other numbers here for a minute for these other 2 people, making up some random numbers. It's a bit too much. Let's go with that one there. I don't know, that'll do. Okay, so now we've set the spreadsheet up. We've said for which property, who owns what percentage. We can go back to the setting. We'll go back to the contents page. Now we're ready to enter the data. So we've got these 3 data entry cells. First of all, you might want to go to do the income first, the rental income. So on the settings page, we said that there were multiple properties and we wanted the analysis to be done on a per property basis. Therefore, we can now see an extra column for the properties as well as the bare minimum columns that you'd need in terms of the amount and some narrative, maybe an invoice number and a date. It isn't possible for somebody accidentally to sort of put in some property that doesn't exist. But equally, if I didn't allocate it to a property and put nothing there, then it's going to come up with an error. It's going to tell me that errors exist. Please check for errors to the right of each row. And we can see the right of each row. Yes, select a so no property has been selected for that one. And like Excel, you can just literally type into a couple of characters and it can come up with the one that you're looking for. So although you could potentially use a drop down if you wanted to, you can just start typing. So if I put 32, 32 Ramsey Street comes up if I wanted to. Also, equally with the dates, if you put the wrong date in there, if I put a date outside the financial year, it will tell me that there's a problem. And I can see on the right date outside financial year. Now, with this spreadsheet, when it generates files for filing, if there are any error messages on the spreadsheet anywhere, the spreadsheet refuses to generate a file to be sent to HMRC because it knows there's a problem somewhere. So it's not possible with this spreadsheet for a client to submit data to HMRC that's been put in the wrong year, data where they haven't selected a particular property for an income or expense. Also, we can see here that 1 quarter has already been filed. Now, this column is actually programmatically completed. You don't fill it in yourself. So when a quarter gets completed, it means that nobody can overwrite the data. So if I try to change one of these amounts, it won't let me. Or if I try to change one of the property, I shouldn't be able to change one of these because if you remember, different individuals have differing percentages of properties, so it shouldn't let me do that either. And I can't change the date either. But you can go in and change the narrative if you want to and put something extra in there. Because that's not fundamentally changing the figures that are sent to HMRC. Okay, so that's the income. It's a similar thing with the purchases, except there's an additional column now for the expense category. So you can either use the drop down or, one of the beauties of Excel, you can just start typing. So if I were to type professional, there it is there, and you can quickly work your way down and fill this spreadsheet in. So yeah, we've already done 1 quarter worth of data here that's already been filed to HMRC. Okay, so let's say you've now entered all the data. Oh, there's also an other entries worksheet. That's for maybe some capital assets you might want to list out there, or some UK income tax that's been paid, foreign tax credit. and so on. So let's say you want to start reviewing your data now. So there's one page here, income expenditure report, where it will give you the total for the whole year. You can change the date range if you want to. You can change it to an individual beneficial owner. So I can make it go to Alison, and a new column appears showing ownership of just Alison's share of all the income and expenses there. You can even do, okay, well, what's Alison's profit share on property number 73? Then it gives you all of the top level figures for that. If you want to drill down and find out what's included in those totals, you can use the ledger report. So you could select all, let's say, or you can choose any individual ledger. So I'll just select all, and let's just say it's for Alison because we're trying to file hers at the moment. And we want it for a quarter. You could change those dates to quarter, and then you just click on the update ledger. That will then generate a report showing all of the data that's included for her. That's all the income, and then we've got the expenses here, and we can see here this ownership column here. This is Alison's share of the total amounts there, all put down in individualized for every single transaction, her share for all of those. So you can review things. So let's say, okay, we're relatively happy that things are looking good, so let's do a quarterly filing now. So you then click on the income tax file. If she was VAT registered, you get an extra button here for VAT, but we said that she's not VAT registered, so that's disappeared. So we just do an income tax file. This income tax file then generates the 4 quarterly periods for however many beneficial owners you said. If you remember, I added an extra one, Derek, so he's down there. We've got Alison here. We're looking at her. The first quarter's already been closed off. You might want to have a look at the detailed report first of what's going to be sent to HMRC. So we click on that naturally first, and that will give you a detailed list of, I see we're starting to run out of time. So that will give you a detailed list of what's included in every single box that's going to go to HMRC. I guess I'll quickly show you that. Let's just save that. So basically what it does, it creates a PDF file. So this creates a file to be uploaded to our website. I'll need to turn the share screen off and open up the share screen for the PDF that's just come up. Where is it? There it is there. So here we can see, it's draft because we haven't closed off the quarter yet. The profit for her for the quarter for Alison is £1,085. We've got her ownership split. We've got a total figure there for all the income and expense categories. And if you wanted to know what the details were, they're all here. I think you get the idea there. And because it's a PDF, if you wanted to look up something, you could do Control Find and just go to professional fees, for example, and get taken to where professional fees is, if it's quite a large file. So you can feel happy to review that. Let's just go back to the bookkeeping spreadsheet very quickly. So that's the detailed report. So let's say you're now ready to do a file. So HMRC file. So we click on that file button. It will ask me, am I sure this will lock all the data at the end of the period? Yes, we're sure now. So we'll click on that. That data in the purchases and the income all gets locked. The user then can't go back and change it. We do have a facility for the agent at the end of the tax year to unlock everything, though, if they want to very quickly change a lot of stuff. You'll notice that the file name is called something very specific. So it's got Alison's name in it. It's telling us what quarter it is. So we've actually even programmatically ensured that Excel generates file names that are sort of fit very well with what you're doing. We then generate that PDF file. That PDF file has now appeared. So let me just change the share screen to show you that. So that's this one here now. So that's the quarterly submission without all the detailed information. This is the one that now gets sent to HMRC. It's final. It's been finalized. There's the profit we saw before in the draft of 1085. So that's now ready to go. So what we need to do now is to go to the website to upload that file. So let's go back there. Alison, here she is here. Yep, that one. We filed there. Is the this quarter here, UK non-holiday let, and this time it's the 123 sheets PDF. We won't use the simplified expenses. We'll go and choose the file now, and it was the filing one, not the detailed one. And then we upload that data to HMRC, and then we can see nicely the profit figure we're expecting 1085. We tick the confirmation box and we file that and send that to HMRC. So there you can see the two different ways in which our software can accept either your own spreadsheet or a spreadsheet that comes from us. Let me just go back to here. So we've had that now. Some additional features. So yeah, our agent version has additional features to just the filing. So we have staff access management so that staff can be added, and each member of staff can have their own deadline schedule. They can see which clients they've been assigned. The deadline management system is intelligent. And what we mean by that is we know when things are coming up. We know which ones have been filed. So all you'd need to do is literally tick a box in the client to say, yes, I want that client's deadline managed. And then the right members of staff will see which returns have been filed and which ones haven't on their deadline schedule. As I mentioned earlier, we have a half price system whereby you can allow clients that can just file the quarterly submissions only without them seeing HMRC calculations or being able to finish off the year. You can also individually for each client set up filing auto reminders for clients. So you can tick a box in the client area of our website, and that will send out auto reminders to clients. And it's an intelligent auto reminder. It doesn't just send it out to all clients. It sends it out to the clients who you have allocated, you want them to receive it. And it only sends it to the clients who haven't yet filed their quarter for that particular deadline. So it will only be chasing the ones who actually still haven't filed yet for the quarter. So just to say thank you for watching. And you should get an email link from HMRC a bit later, where you'll receive a link to be where you can notify or be notified when our spreadsheets and demo website becomes available for you to sort of have a play around with. And any email that you get, of course, you can unsubscribe at any time. All our emails down the bottom have a little link where you can just unsubscribe. Yeah, I guess at this stage, yeah, I think it's over to you, Roz. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Peter. I think if I could ask on behalf of the members, how would the pricing work for this product?
Okay, if anybody wants to know what the pricing is, we tried to make the pricing as simple as possible. So we've kept it the same as our VAT pricing. So what a user would need to do is basically they could just go to our website. So if I just quickly show you that, now you can just find the pricing on there. I think is it here. So you click on pricing and you just move the slider along depending on how many clients you've got to find out what the price is, and yet you'd be going for the accountant version. So for example, if you had, let's say 25 clients, then that would be £60 pretty much plus VAT for an entire year. And our pricing is purely on the number of clients that you've got. So it doesn't matter how many staff you've got, it's just literally how many clients there are that you want to put onto our system. Brilliant. And you just, and I think and it's for a year. So it's irrelevant as to how many things you need to file for that client. So the filings with HMRC go on the national insurance number. Mm-hmm. So therefore, in terms of per client, it's per national insurance number. So even if a client has a foreign let, a UK holiday let, a UK property non-holiday let portfolio, and they've got 2 sole traderships, it's still the same price of one client because it's one national insurance number. So it's not per business, it's per national insurance number.
Perfect. That's nice and transparent. I like that. And what else would you suggest sets 123 Sheets apart from other bridging software that does something similar?
Okay, I think 2 things. I think one, I think you've seen from the filing that it's quite a sort of a relatively, hopefully, I think it's a simple process. And we have the same process for VAT. Other bridging software products we've seen, a lot of them can be very fiddly to get to work. They involve fiddling around in a spreadsheet and trying to get something to work that's not working. Most of our users don't even get in contact with us. So for example, we file on behalf of over 32,000 businesses, either via their accountant. About half of our businesses is from accountants, or another half from unrepresented taxpayers. And we typically get about 10 emails a day because our software is so user friendly. People find it very simple and easy to use. So that's one a thing I think that sort of sticks out for us is our sort of user friendliness and easy process to do filings. And the other aspect is we provide more than just the bare minimum filing capability. So for example, if I were just to show you on our website the deadline management very quickly, you'll see some of the additional features that we have that a lot of other bridging software providers don't have. So if I just go back to that. So yeah, so on the deadline schedule, so yeah, let's have a look at the start. So user access, you can very easily put in add extra users here. You can put their email address, password, view the password. If someone's forgotten their password, you can delete. You can, when you edit a particular member of staff, you can say which clients they're going to see, all or none, or you can check which ones and update that. Then in each client, let's say, you can tick a box to say you want to include them in the deadline management. You can tick a box to say you want to give that client access for them to do their own quarterly filings only. You want that client to be sent auto reminders when they haven't filed a quarterly filing yet. And I think these sort of features a lot of other providers don't have. So our deadline schedule, for example, it automatically knows when the next filing deadline is, and it puts the ones at the top, the ones that are coming up soon, or the ones that are already overdue, or ones due in 5 days become orange. You can change the period if you want to see something different. So for example, if you want to go back to see, have we got any returns outstanding from the first quarter? No, we don't actually. That was fine. Did we have any outstanding from the second quarter? Yes, I did. Those one, oh yeah, those are the ones I still haven't done yet that are overdue. Yeah, so we have like these sort of additional features that a lot of other bridging software providers don't have.
The built-in efficiencies. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And most importantly, if our members want to know more about your product or chat to you more about instilling it in their own practices, how do they go about doing that?
So yeah, as I mentioned before, hopefully you should get an email where there'll be a link where you can register to find out more, where we'll be able to let you know when spreadsheets are ready. If you want to have a look at ours and play around with it. Some of accountants have said they're itching to have a go because they want to try and break it. So we're very happy for you to have a go at doing that if you want. And these demos that you've just seen, they will be all available online. You'll be able to test and have a go at your leisure. So if you, when you do get the email from from the ICAEW, I've got HMRC on the brain. Sorry.
Don't we all?
Yeah, when you get an email from the ICAEW about wanting to sign up for updates, if you send us your, if you do that, leave your details on the website, on our website, then you'll be updated as and when things and when new releases and new bits come out. We're hoping to have bank feed at some point for our spreadsheet as well, and some other features like invoicing, where people can do their sales invoicing from within the spreadsheet, and other additional features, so you'd be notified about that. Alternatively, I would recommend that as the best way. If you have a particular thing you want to talk about, of course, you can just go to our website and send us an email. I tend to deal with accountants that have specific problems or issues they want to talk about. And I would say that, they may not be aware of this, but we've spoken to HMRC and they've said to us that they're hoping that the private beta will move into a public beta phase in March/April next year. And that's when we will be opening up, therefore, our pilot scheme to a lot more accountants at that stage, because at the moment it's very time intensive. You have to do a number of Zoom calls with the client and HMRC at the same time. So we sort of stopped taking on new people into the pilot for now, because it's so labor intensive. But once we've gone into the public beta phase, then all that Zoom stuff with HMRC and the client would disappear, and people will be able to just get on and do it by themselves without having to sort of have to go into Zooms with HMRC and all that type of stuff.
Fantastic. That's perfect. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thank you, Peter, for your insight and advice, and also thank you to our listeners for coming along and joining us. Thank you and goodbye.
Cheers, bye.